Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Spooky Japan Podcast. Hoping everyone's doing well today. How are you doing, Irene?
Not bad. Just kind of thawing out. Trying to thaw.
It's a little chilly here in Japan today, but we
Yeah.
have a very special guest with us today. 222 Paranormal joining us. How you guys doing?
Hey,
We're doing
hey.
great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you inviting us.
Hello, Japan.
Yeah.
Konnichiwa.
For our listeners out there who may not know who you are or be aware of who you are, how would you introduce yourself and where'd you get started in paranormal?
Sure. So, my name's Jen. This is my brother Joe. We
Mhm.
are the 222 Paranormal Podcast. We've been on the air for 9 seasons now, going on our 10th year. We've been doing the podcast weekly
Mhm.
the entire time. We have over 400 episodes. And I had this love of ghosts and ghost hunting and haunted mysteries and treasure hunting and anything just strange and unusual since I was a little kid. And I was really getting into ghost hunting about 20 years ago. Joe was getting into podcasting. So as I progressed in my ghost hunting and going into haunted locations, Joe was like, you know what? We should do a podcast. I was like, what is a podcast? I don't even know. And so he told me what it is and what we did. And then we just sat down and we recorded one day. And it's been 9 years later and we're still going. We've never missed a week,
Never missed a week.
never repeated an episode.
Well, except for one.
Oh, okay. One.
Yeah, when the Roswell, the anniversary of the Roswell, we did our Stanton Freeman show.
Yes.
We
Rest in
replayed that.
peace.
Yeah. But other than that, have not missed a week. Have not copied a episode. What's great about us is we record a lot of our shows live at the events. Now, when I say live, it's not like you are here where we're doing it live. We actually record and then put the show out later, but we record at the conventions so that we can get a variety of guests. And we have covered a lot of them. But myself, what got me into the paranormal is I had a shared death experience with my best friend Jackie. She passed away, and I actually had a shared death experience with her, which made me think of more of the ghosty side of it because I was always into the alien side and UFOs. Yeah. And like Jen said, she was ghost hunting. Actually, the pre-show that we did was just us talking off air. We mentioned about Zach Baggins and that, and that's who Jen was actually ghost hunting with 9 years ago with them. And Jen was like, I'm into the paranormal. You're into podcast. Let's get together and do a show. And here we are. I did some research, got some microphones and the equipment and that. And we just sat down in Jen's basement one day, recorded the show. And the first few shows sound pretty bad.
They were great.
But I need to learn my radio voice. I'm going, hey, but now we're just seasoned pros. We've been doing it for so long, and we love it. We enjoy every time we do it, and we enjoy being guests on your show.
We love it. International podcasting.
See, we can't say that we could go live or record at conventions because here in Japan, it's actually a taboo thing, the paranormal, which is funny because culture-wise, it's revolved around a lot of respecting the ancestors or spirits. However, when it comes to actual paranormal, and paranormal investigations, it's taboo and it's something they absolutely just do not do.
Really? That's so interesting.
Yeah, the cultures are completely different, but I've read up a lot about Japanese culture, and they do embrace it through, like you said, their different traditions and that. But yeah, to be out and saying we're going ghost hunting, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
we have to change our minds through the podcast.
Irene can even tell you, like, even the way you eat revolves around respecting, the ancestors and the spirits. Because you can't leave your chopsticks in the food. Like, if you have to put your chopsticks down, you put in the chopsticks holder, you can't actually put it in the food because that's you offering your meal to the dead.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
interesting.
To Japan and you do that, let's say you get, excuse yourself in a bathroom or put your chopsticks down for any reason, you just leave them in there. More than likely, people around you are going to give you looks.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting. That
And
was
you have to, with rice and soup, it goes on the left hand. The soup goes on the right hand side. The rice goes on the left hand side. So you have to be careful where you put your, how you place your meals in front of you
mhm.
when you eat. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Holy tears running around the house. Anyways,
Oh.
yeah, that
Cat.
that that's
Oh,
what you have to do when you eat and how you eat
mhm,
and which one you grab first to eat and how you position yourself when you eat, making sure that you respect your ancestors when you eat and before you eat you always say thank you ancestors for giving us our food, and after you finish thank you ancestors for feeding us and you know we had a good meal, and that's how you do it here, and it's just really different. It's a different way of it's culturally really different. So everything revolves around the paranormal. When you're a child you learn about it, when you get
mhm.
old you learn about it, and when you're before you're dying you know about it too. So it's just really, I don't know, they're fixated on the dead and dying here. That's
Mhm.
all.
Would it be illegal if you were out, with equipment somewhere?
No, I
Okay.
don't use equipment because I don't need it. But
Mm,
people who can't hear and can't see them need equipment. But yeah,
Mhm.
I wouldn't go anywhere with equipment. I'd just walk around, and I
mhm.
had cat balls and that's all I need and that's all I do.
Okay.
You don't walk around with equipment because people will look at you and stare at you. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think people get uncomfortable here, especially because obviously a lot of them would make a lot of loud noise,
yeah,
Mhm,
and people in Japan are usually not very loud. Like even on the trains, they're very quiet. You can't. They either don't speak, or if you're going to speak, you can't speak above a whisper.
yeah. And you can't play with your cell phone unless it's on mute. You can't
Mhm.
take cell phone calls either
yeah.
in public. Or sometimes some restaurants will allow you to take won't allow you to take um cell phones and talk to somebody when you're eating.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's respecting others around you. So
Mhm,
you have to be very careful about what you do around you, and you can't use loud voices either
Mhm.
because they'll look at you and say, shut up, like, like,
I don't
and
know
they're
if I
not
make it
gonna.
there. I have a loud voice.
Yeah,
I like to
I have a
talk to
loud
people.
voice too. I also have a loud voice also, but yeah, I just. I usually call my
Interesting.
husband or message my husband. Here, I'm right here. Take a picture, and there you'll find me here. And he
Interesting.
won't say anything. He'll just come to my area, and we just, yeah, we just have to be respectful where we
Mhm.
are, and
Okay.
especially in public, right, Amanda?
Yeah,
Definitely.
once
It,
you start living here, you really see how disrespectful Americans can be. And
Mhm,
the
yeah,
worst part is, it's not even Americans who are like that are considered the most disrespectful foreigners here. But
yeah,
obviously, I'm surrounded by a lot of Americans here, and you start seeing it more when
mm-hmm,
we'll be out in restaurants, and someone will put their, I don't even know why, they take a phone call and they
mhm,
put it on speakerphone, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
so loud that we could hear it on the other side of the restaurant. I'm like, why does your
Mhm.
whole entire restaurant need to hear your conversation? And they're talking loudly.
yeah,
It's the foreigners who are the loudest in
yeah,
restaurants.
yeah,
mhm,
And they, with Japan, minus Irene, they
mm-hmm,
are not
yeah,
confrontational.
mhm.
Irene, you
yeah,
know that's true. They're not confrontational besides you.
I
So
know.
they don't know what to do. But there's also been times, there's been several times we've been in restaurants where someone will just on speaker start playing their music extremely loud. So the whole entire rest, like we could hear on the other side of the restaurant. I was like, do we need to hear your music?
Well, we
Like
could play a
here's
podcast. That
Yeah.
would be great.
And when
yeah.
you talk about respecting that, though, it kind of goes back to the paranormal aspect of it. Is when we're doing investigation, that we tell everybody, you have to be respectful for the spirits because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you talk as if they're in front of you because they basically are in front of you,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
should be respectful. There's different types of ghost hunters and that, but
Yeah.
the ones that really make it and really get good connections are respectful to the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I mean, you have teams that provoke and stuff like that, but when it comes down to it, you just you treat the spirits as if they're in front of you because they are. And if you come into a room and you start provoking or you're screaming at them, light up the lights, all that stuff, you're not going to get the responses that you want.
Yeah.
You want to get the communication and you want to start
Yeah.
talking to these spirits with respect so that they will communicate with you. And we found that to be true in a lot of our investigations that we've been on is once you build up a rapport with that spirit,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to get good EVPs and stuff like that.
Yeah. But here I noticed when I do walk around, when I do my investigations, I usually do it with my husband.
Hmm.
Uh, he gets attacked. They don't care if you have your. They don't care about crystals. They don't care about anything. They'll come and get you whether you like it or not. Like, yeah, we have no worries about nothing. Haha, I see you, and I say you can't do anything about it. I go, oh God, I got picked. I got tagged, and I said, jeez, and like, yeah, they're not afraid to come out and say, well, you can see me, I can see you now, ha ha ha, like this. I go, okay, see ya, like,
Yeah.
and that's how Amanda feels the same way that like they come out, and they could come out in front of her, and they go, so now what are you gonna do about it? And they said, okay, I'm gonna walk this way, and we're done. That's how we usually. That's how you do it in this country. You
Yeah.
really don't want to approach them. You don't want to. You don't want to antagonize them because then they come up lashing at you. So you just have to say, okay, I'm gonna walk this way. You can go that way. I'll do my own thing. You do your thing. And we're good. That's
Yeah.
how.
It's like when you finish a investigation, a lot of people just either will walk out of a location or that we always say a prayer. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what religion you believe in, say a prayer and tell the
Yep.
spirits. I mean, basically, like when we leave a location, we just say, you know, you're welcome to talk to us in that, but you cannot follow us home. We'll
Mm-hmm.
come back and visit you again, but
Mhm.
you can't follow us home. And we also we were just talking to somebody a couple of days ago about protection,
Mm-hmm.
and
Spiritual protection.
yeah, and
Yeah.
when you do that, when you leave a location, we were at a convention at a haunted location, and even though we weren't doing a paranormal investigation, we still
Mm-hmm.
said a prayer when we left, saying, if any spirits are here, you're not allowed to follow us home, that kind of stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
attachments are real, and people do get attached.
Yep.
And even your equipment,
Mm-hmm.
we use some equipment. We love the dowsing rod, stuff like that, but
Mm.
even our equipment we'll put in the trunk of the car or we'll leave set outside for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and quote unquote cool off. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
through your whole investigation, you're saying, come talk to us, light up the
Mm-hmm.
lights, do all this kind of stuff with the equipment.
Manipulate that equipment.
Yeah. And you really do have to protect yourself, whether it's your
Yeah.
equipment or the spirits themselves.
Because your equipment can be affected too, and then you could get attachment to your equipment,
Hmm.
and you have to cleanse your equipment
Mhm.
afterwards.
Hmm.
Yep.
And it's good to cleanse your equipment after each investigation that you go to. So when you
Yeah.
finish, you
Like,
download everything, you cleanse your equipment, and then
mhm.
you can put it away and
Yeah.
move on to the next one. It's
Yeah.
really important. A lot of people don't know that you should do that, but it's a precaution that you should take.
Hmm.
after your investigation.
Yeah.
A-
Yeah,
And
like I normally will put my dowsing rods in the freezer afterwards to
mhm,
dissipate any energy that is on those.
mhm,
Um, our electronic equipment we normally will not bring into the house for a couple of days just to make
mhm,
sure if there is something kind of lingering around, it doesn't
mhm,
come into the house
Hmm.
because that has happened to us. I
mhm,
have brought spirit unknowingly
mhm,
had spirits attached before I learned it as I went. I didn't
mhm,
come into this knowing everything, and
mhm,
had spirits follow me home and had to have cleansing and
Hmm.
saging of the
mhm.
house to get rid of them because they would wake me up at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I need my beauty sleep because
Well,
I'm 53 now.
tell them about the attachment that you had.
So Joe and I went to West Virginia Penitentiary in I forget what town it's in, and it's somewhere in West Virginia.
Yeah. Moundsville.
Moundsville.
Yeah.
And so we went into this haunted prison, which is notoriously known for very, very dark energy. There's a place in the basement called the Sugar Shack, which has been on a lot of the ghost shows here in America,
Mhm,
and a lot of negative type activity. It was basically the guards would just throw the prisoners in this basement, dirt floor basement, and lock them in there with it was a free for all.
Hmm.
Anything could have happened. There could have been fights or stabbings, murders, other things. And so we went down there. It was so dark in the space you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And I
mhm,
could just feel things standing right in front of me. It was very terrifying. I actually found a pillar and put my back to the pillar
Hmm.
because I was so frightened in this space. It was very spooky and dark. So when I came home from that investigation, for about 2 weeks after, I just started not feeling like myself. I'm a very jovial and happy-go-lucky person and
mhm,
people person. I just was not myself. I was angry and I was upset and I was depressed and I was just
mhm,
not myself. So
mhm,
we went to a convention here in Ohio where we live,
mhm,
and this Native American shaman walked up to me and he's like looking at me funny. And I was like, I knew he knew
mhm,
that I had something. And he's like, you have an attachment. I'm like, yeah, and I can't get rid of it. And
mhm,
so he did this little cleansing
mhm,
ritual,
mhm,
and instantly I just felt completely back to myself, completely
Hmm.
different. So, you have to be really careful when you are doing investigations because these things do draw towards
mhm.
light workers and good energy and sometimes want to follow you home. Oh, thanks, Virgil. I appreciate that. You're sweet. But it is a real thing. People can get oppressed or depressed or
Mhm,
oppressed
Hmm.
or possessed
mhm,
when doing investigations. So you just have to kind of do your research and maybe know what kind of spirits may be in a place. You don't always know. I mean,
Hmm.
you could go into a place that's just an old abandoned building,
mhm,
thinking you know maybe something in there or not, but there could be something very dark or scary lurking in these places because you don't know if somebody's been in there and doing rituals or
Yeah, that's one thing
conjurings.
we've always said is sometimes the place, even if you've been there before,
Hmm.
you don't know what the people did after you. And
mhm,
we found a lot of owners will say, even though they have a no seance rule, they
Hmm.
catch people still doing seances
Oh
because
yeah.
they saw it on a movie, so they know what to do.
Mhm.
mhm,
They think they know what they're doing, and
mhm,
you just don't know what portals they opened or what else they invited in there. But I know
Yeah.
here in Japan, if you go into somewhere that's supposed to be haunted, you do need, the best thing you should do is do bow before you enter, introduce yourself even before you go in to even set
mhm,
up, because it's to them, it's more respectful. They could be friendly, but if you just walk in, set up your equipment, then introduce yourself, they're already upset at you
yeah,
Yeah.
because they feel like you disrespected them in
Exactly.
their home.
Yeah.
But the best way I always describe it on the show is it's if you don't, it'd be so if you do, the bow, introduce yourself before you walk in, just say, "Hey, I'm just here to talk, I'm not here to harm you." It's the
Mhm.
equivalent if I walked to your house, knocked on your door, said, "Hey, I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
come in and chat." But if you just walk in and set up equipment, it'd be equivalent of me walking to your door, kicking it in,
Mm-hmm.
and then say, "I'm here to talk." You're like, "I'm not gonna." You're gonna be less friendly. That's the
Mhm.
same thing with them. They
Sure.
Yeah.
just find it very disrespectful that you even walked into their place before you even said anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we find too that, some of the spirits don't understand what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing. They could be centuries old. These
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
spirits
especially
that
here.
are lingering around might not understand electronic equipment.
Yeah.
They may understand like a dowsing rod, which has been around for 8,000 years versus your digital recorder. So we
Mhm.
always try to, when we do go into a place, explain to any spirits that's there, or like if you don't understand this equipment, it won't harm you. We're not here to try to kick you out. We're just here to communicate and just find out about the other side, or just see why you're still here.
Mhm.
Some spirits here, even if you explain that to them, they said, "Well, we don't want that here. Get rid
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
that. Put it
Mhm.
away." So I end up putting it away, and I said,
Mhm.
"Okay, we're not going to do that. We'll just have a conversation with just you and me, and we'll talk." And here I am having a full-blown conversation with the spirit, and it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna spend 3 hours here talking. Again. Okay, we'll do that." You know, but once you leave, they get upset when you leave, so you have to be really careful about how you leave. Even if you say, like, you can't come with us, you have to stay here. I had that problem when I was walking through a cemetery in Japan. It was one of the biggest cemeteries in Aoyama Cemetery, it's called, in the middle of Tokyo. And three of my friends and I, we went through it. And yeah, they came home with us. Even though if I
Oh
said you can't
no.
come home with us,
Yeah.
even if I said you can't come home with us, they came home with us. Instead of I said to my son, I should cross them over. And my son said, "No, we got to kick them out." I go, "Whatever. I'll listen to you, okay." But I had a because they got lonely. They didn't
Yeah.
want to be alone.
Hmm.
So I said, I didn't want to kick them out. Let's cross them over. My son said, "No, we got to kick them out." I said, "Okay, fine." So I
But
listened to him, and he kicked them out.
yeah,
But
I
in
mean,
Japan, that's normal. What you do in Japan,
uh,
you don't. There's no such thing as crossing them over like I do. It's about like you gotta kick them out.
yeah.
So I listened to him. I said, "Okay, fine." I just sat back and I just did absolutely nothing, and let him kick them out. I said, "Okay, fine." And I still felt like I should have crossed them over because they were hanging around in the cemetery. They weren't crossed over yet, and they
Mhm.
were just they were the undead of the dead, right? So, and they weren't bad spirits. They just were kind of lonely because they wanted me to unalive myself and to be with them. And I said, "No, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that."
Got too much stuff going on.
Right?
Yeah,
Got
I
nothing
didn't
to do.
want to do that. And you know what? I was packing my crystals and I did everything like that. Like, some places, they don't give a hoot whether you're packing your crystals or not, because you got all the protection you have against the elements. But
Mhm.
yeah, they don't give a hoot. They don't care.
Well,
They'll
that's
come
interesting
after with you like
because,
it.
for a culture that's so based on respect, if they're not respecting you, telling them not to come home, follow me home, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
It's like what
because
changes
it's
when you
totally
pass.
different here. It's totally different here. Like, I knew exactly what I needed. And I asked my friend in England, like, what should I buy? I need to buy some certain types of really heavy protection crystals because I'm going in here.
Mhm.
I'm going to this place. And they said, "Okay, you have to get yourself some blah 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 blah." I said, "Okay, I'll do this." So I went to the crystal store, and I went to the rock store and I bought whatever I needed. and he gave me, and I got a free bag to put it all in, and I went on my investigation. I said, "Oh, that didn't work." I thought,
Uh,
yeah, that didn't work. Oh, so much for that one. Like,
yeah.
and it just depends on where you go here and
Hmm.
what you do. There are some places I will not ever go, and there are some places I will go. So you have to pick and choose right, proper, right, and make sure you do come out of it safe, because there's a lot of places that you can go, but uh, I'd say no, no to that one.
Yeah.
So
And
Mhm.
you think
yeah.
about too is with cemeteries, you know, we all know that there's no such thing in time as time on the other side, but time does pass. And
Yeah.
For
cemetery,
us.
like I always say, there's three phases of death. Okay,
Yeah.
there's your physical death,
Mhm.
there's the death when they put you in the ground,
Mhm.
and it's the last time someone speaks your name.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
with cemeteries, people, I know that us being in the paranormal field, we every
Mhm.
time we travel, we ended up at a cemetery.
Mhm.
And when we walk through cemeteries, I'm reading the names out loud, stuff like that, to show
Mhm.
respect there. And
Mhm.
but lots of times these people have not had any visitors, and people that don't even realize that they've even existed because family
Yeah.
members don't come out or nothing like that.
Mhm.
So when people
Yeah.
go to cemeteries and pay a little attention to these spirits,
Mhm.
it's almost like they are drawn to you
Yeah.
because they understand what you do and
Mhm.
they understand that you're there to respect them. Because I
Mhm.
Yeah.
always say, you want to know the history of a town or you want to know the history of someone, go to the cemeteries.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this is one of the most haunted cemeteries, well-known haunted cemeteries, because
Mm.
they have samurai warriors who have
Mm.
passed away in that cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dog named Hachi, and everyone knows that he came to the train station every day to wait for his owner. When his owner
Yeah.
didn't come, he cried and he died eventually, and he's buried in that cemetery too.
Oh,
So
yeah. I've
yeah,
seen.
it's just, yeah, the air is heavy. You feel like the air is so thick you can't breathe in that cemetery. It's just something different. It's just different, and
Mm-hmm.
you have all the different smells. You could smell everything that goes around in the cemetery, and some places it's just too much. So we only stayed there for about an hour and a half when we left, and yeah, I would I'd go back, but I have to think about it. We'll probably go back there.
Yeah.
It's just not the kind of place you want to go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they have benches there. They have beautiful cherry blossoms that grow in the summer, in the springtime. It's actually really gorgeous. It's like a park. Okay, but if you want to walk through it, you can walk through it, but just don't interact with anything when you go walk through there and look at the cherry blossoms and sit on the benches and stuff like that. That's what they have there. It's a huge place. But yeah, I don't think I might hesitate to go back there again.
Mhm. Do they bury their dead underground or above ground in Japan?
Above ground.
Well, technically above ground, but here, because land is an issue, you're
Hmm.
cremated down to the bones first,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
then it's not you don't have your individual plot. You have a
Okay.
Hmm.
family plot.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Your last name will be in the front, and then you on the back, it says like everyone else's first name and the year they
Mhm.
born,
Yeah.
when they died.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
And what
so
what are like the funeral rituals over there? Do they compare to what we do here in America, where we lay somebody out in a coffin or a casket for showing?
they have a
Or
they have a casket. They have a casket. It's made out of wood, so it's easy to burn.
mm,
And there's a law here that everything, all, and including pets, all have to be cremated
mm,
Hmm.
to the bone. And
mhm,
then with humans, it's a little bit different. Humans, they have a funeral ceremony with Buddhist rites, and then
mhm.
afterwards you take it to the crematorium. Everyone, the whole family goes to the crematorium. The
Okay.
guests don't; just the family goes,
Mhm,
and they rent a bus a big huge bus and they go to the crematorium. You watch your family being cremated, and then they wait till the bones cool off, and you put the bones in a huge clay pot with people like you yourself and maybe your husband carry the bone and put it in the clay pot. So everyone has a ritual doing that, and they
No.
close up the clay pots, and you bring it home
Mhm.
for two for what couple weeks, and then you have a ceremony where you put the bones in the plot, your family plot. So they open up, so they're just cemented together. The guy who
Okay.
works there opens up the plot, and you place the bones in the plot, and then he puts cement all around it and caulking all around it, and then you burn incense, you give offering of sticky rice food for them, and then water water the area, and then you'll depart. It's called no kotsire, and that ceremony only happens whenever somebody dies, and for maybe about 10 days, I think. You have the bones in your house, and you bring it to the cemetery and you put it in the plot, and then you go back every so many years to have a ceremony for when they died, and then you go back again with the obon is another ceremony that we have, that it's like Easter in a way, that you celebrate the death of a family member, and then you clean the area, and then you bring sticky rice to the area, and then you burn incense, and then you can go walk away. It's one of the most treasured months of the year. In where Amanda lives, it's done on August the 24th, 26th. They
Okay.
celebrate for 3 days. My area in Tokyo, we only celebrate one day, which is on my birthday on July 16th.
Oh, happy birthday.
So, yeah, kind of like to me. But anyways,
Oh,
we
yeah.
practice we practice that, and then you go to the cemetery at midnight. So you have a paper lantern with a candle in it, and you carry it. Yeah, and you clean the graves at midnight.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the most spookiest month of the year. So yeah, my son doesn't like it. I don't like it because all the spirits come back to have something to eat, and you send them
Mhm.
away. You feed the spirits.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most haunted location or place in Japan?
It's supposed to be Okinawa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Is it-
what
Yeah.
makes it that way? Is it from a war or a hurricane or tsunami?
War.
Hmm.
Well, a little bit of both because obviously tsunamis hit that too. Because when tsunamis hit that, it hits that hard down there too.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There was one last year, kind of came and destroyed everything.
Hmm. Yeah. War is there's another reason why, and plus a lot of people who have died hiding in caves. Their bones are still in the caves. Nobody touches them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
be disrespectful.
Yeah.
you can visit them if you want to. You know, they have tours where you can go and visit them. There are a lot of places that you can visit, but you have to do it during the daytime. You can't go at nighttime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at nighttime you may not come back because they will take you. They will
Oh,
take you. They
okay.
will take you. There are certain parks around where I live in Tokyo that you can go during the daytime. You shouldn't go after 9 o'clock. They'll lock it up pretty tight because they will take you.
Okay.
Yeah, actually it's more scary, isn't it, Amanda?
There is a
It's
place just 2 hours north of me
hmm
that is supposed to be so scary haunted. The
Mhm.
Inunaki Bridge, and
hmm
near that bridge is the Inunaki Village.
hmm
Inunaki is Japanese for the howling wolf.
hmm
Oh.
That
yeah.
bridge is supposed to be the reason why it's haunted is because it has had so many murders happen there. that they
Yeah.
actually had to seal it up.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is so haunted, and it's supposed to be so scary haunted that there's a lot of video games, horror movies,
Mm-hmm.
horror shows just based off of that bridge alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then near that bridge is the Inunaki village,
Mm-hmm.
where now they, now it's no longer inhabited, maybe by squatters,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a village in the woods, in the forest, in the mountain, that when it did have its people there, they were all outlaws, and the sign is still there that says beyond this point, Japanese constitution, or basically Japanese law, does not exist.
Oh
And
wow.
that was the
Wow.
whole reasoning for them building this
Mm-hmm.
city in the woods, is because they didn't want to live under Japanese law. So they just
Mm-hmm.
built their own town. They had that, and anything and everything beyond that point, anything and everything beyond that point went. Like, literally anything crime wise you can think of happened there.
Mm.
My husband knows of that place when he was a child growing up in that area. He was born on that island where Amanda lives, and he knows about it as a child growing up, and everybody knows about it. Every child knows about it in that area. And my husband said, "You want to go there? I'll take you there." He knows where it is. He
Yeah.
knows exactly how to get in there. He knows he knows what road to take, and yeah, it's just one of those notorious places that everyone knows.
I do plan
Growing
on
up,
going there, but obviously I have to wait for someone to be willing to go with me.
Hmm.
Due to
yeah,
the history, I don't
it's
want to be there by
yeah.
myself. But even if it wasn't, I still wouldn't want to be hiking through the woods by myself, just in case.
Sure.
That's why we're having a discussion when we should meet up together near Amanda and go there, us three. Because I
Yeah.
need my husband to take us there, and he'll walk with us through that place because he said, I know where it is.
Hmm.
And to him it's yeah, so what about it, like, like, "Oh, okay, you want to go, okay, we'll go." I'm like, he's nonchalant about it.
It's like I'm not afraid. I'm into the paranormal.
Right. Nothing scares us.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, I know where it is, we'll take you there, we'll go there, and you'll blah blah blah, "Oh, okay." Like,
Yeah, it is on my list, but I also don't want to just go hiking by myself, just in case.
no,
Hmm.
and you shouldn't go by yourself anyways,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
to a place like that, not. mm,
I mean, in any paranormal situation, you really shouldn't go by. I know people do.
Oh
They
yeah.
do, solo investigations, but we've been in some situations where the buildings were decrepit, and I mean, if you
mhm,
stepped wrong, you're going through the floor,
Hmm.
or
yeah,
there's, the building's full of mold, or homeless people
Yeah.
too.
yeah,
Is sometimes a concern when you go into
mhm,
these, especially like a large abandoned hospital, which we've been in, and
Yeah.
there's
St.
been
Joseph's.
been
yeah,
homeless people in there, and typically in America, homeless people will carry weapons to
Hmm.
protect themselves. So you
Yeah.
just gotta
yeah,
be careful.
It's
One of
not
the
just
that's
that,
one
but
of the big, but
I've
that's
known
one of the big, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I've known people who walked into places like that. And it's not just the homeless people have weapons, but the homeless person was on cocaine, or at least they think it was. They just know the person was highly drugged up. They chased them, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do. I don't run that fast. So if someone drugged
Right.
up is chasing me,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to mention one of the places that we've investigated is called the Old St. Joseph's Hospital, and that place is was, I should say, because they tore it down, but it was one of the most haunted places that we've been into. We've had a lot of situations in there. Jen had a doctor that came up on her with a
Mm.
full body apparition of a doctor. I've heard many voices in there.
mhm,
Um, on EVP, we did capture a baby crying, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But when we were doing our tour, luckily we
mhm,
had a police officer with us because the place was so big.
mhm,
And as we were walking through, we did notice some doors open, and we are like, okay, doors are open. That means
Mhm.
someone has come in.
Yeah.
And you know that the living are scarier than the dead.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, we communicate with the spirits, but yeah, some of the stuff that happened there was amazing. I remember I was in the intensive care unit, and I'm sitting there looking at the door, and you know, there's a few other teams there with us, and I see this light in the door, and I'm thinking to myself, well, someone's coming down the hallway,
Mhm.
but the door kept lighting up like someone's flashing a flashlight at it,
Mhm.
and I'm sitting there, and finally I'm like, well, no one's showing up, so I shine my light on the door, and come to find out it was a solid door. There was no window in it.
Mm.
So we were inside the intensive care unit, and there were light anomalies appearing in front of us. I thought it was just someone coming down the hallway, but come to find out, the door didn't even have windows in it. And Jen, she had a great thing happen to her. Why don't you explain to them what happened to you?
Okay, so we were in a hall. There's very long hallways in this hospital. So the one wing is the veterans wing, and then the other wing is the labor and delivery section of the hospital. So it was known that people had seen a doctor, an apparition of a doctor who had been a doctor there for probably 60 years in his career, and he delivered thousands of babies. So I decided to use a trigger object. So I went on YouTube and got a video of a newborn baby crying. And so when I started playing this in the hallway of the labor and delivery, I saw like a white, all I can say is like mist coming towards me. As it got closer and closer, it shaped or morphed into a doctor in a lab coat, and he walked right to us and turned right into the room where all the deliveries happened. It was like that. Hearing that newborn baby cry was, whatever it triggered him to appear. He thought he was being, summoned to a newborn baby being born. So it was absolutely incredible to be able to use that type of trigger object to invoke the spirit to come forward.
Yeah, when we were doing our presentations, I involved that investigation in our presentation. So I was looking for evidence, and I was going through our recordings, and I heard this baby crying. I'm like, wait a minute. And I know Jen used that recording, so I was talking to her, and come to find out, it was probably 2 hours after that that on the recording I could actually hear a baby crying as an EVP, and it was amazing.
It was a great EVP, Class A for sure.
Wow.
What has been the creepiest experience you've had investigating?
Well, mine. Okay,
I'll tell you mine after.
All right, I'll tell you mine first. It's really, really cool, but it was terrifying at the time that it happened. So I was at Ohio Reformatory, which is in Mansfield. It's a famous haunted prison. It's been on all of the ghost shows, known for some very extreme haunting and famous cases. I was in solitary confinement, which is in the basement. It's very, very dark down there. Like, these prisoners would be in there 23 hours a day, maybe get a shower, maybe get a little bit of sunlight once a day. Maybe they wouldn't. They could have been locked in there for days. So I was down there with one of the hosts of a famous ghost show, who we mentioned earlier. His name starts with a Z. And I was in a cell with another lady. There was a couple in the next cell, and he started provoking the spirits. Now, in the prison, respect is a big part of the hierarchy of prisoners. You earn respect. That's kind of their code. He was in there, provoking at these spirits of these dangerous criminals, or, sometimes mentally psychopath people. They're in prison, right? It's solitary confinement. They're the worst of the worst. So we're in there, and I'm literally just shaking. Like, if you ever been so cold and freezing and like your whole body shakes, It was like that, but being scared. And then something pulled my ponytail. It pulled my head back. Felt like something was right up against me. And as Zach is shouting at these prisoners, this lady in the cell next to me has a gold bracelet on her arm. It gets ripped off her arm and is thrown out of the cell and hits the wall. And we all like, oh my gosh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
But it was one of the coolest experiences. And then later in the day or the night, because we were there, overnight, I'm walking down. The cells are long, they're like 30 cells long and 5 stories high. And I'm walking down the zigzag stairs on the end, and the people that I was with were in front of me, like a whole level down. And I'm just taking pictures, and I turn the corner and I see a full body apparition of a prisoner just standing there staring at me. And it was like, how you turn a corner and you almost bump into somebody, you go like that.
Yeah.
Did that, and he looked at me, and I saw him like in detail, and he just disappeared right in front of my face. It was the coolest thing I ever experienced, but it was scary. It was very
But that other lady, she was lucky that that's all that happened to her, right?
Mhm.
Because she
Sure.
could have been flying. She could have been flying.
Yep.
Her body could have been flying and hit the wall.
Oh yeah.
It's just one of those dangerous things where you have to kind of like use your noggin. How you gonna talk to them, because they may not be the nicest people. Like Amanda says, you're angry in death, living you're angry in death, right? So yeah, exactly. You just have to. It wasn't the most smartest thing that he did, right? And
But
she could have been a victim of something horrible that could have happened there. And yeah, trying to get help when that happens to you, that's all shaking my head. I was like, oh my god, you
yeah,
gotta be
and then
kidding,
one time
right?
I was doing a private investigation for a young brother and sister who came from a different country. The father was a priest in a certain religion. And not a very nice one. And the son escaped because in that particular religion, the firstborn son has to follow the father's footsteps and become a priest in this certain sect or cult or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so they came to America to escape that. And the father was doing rituals back in the home country, called my friend who deals in these types of things to come out because they were having all this activity in their apartment, like shadow figures and things flying off the shelves and, things waking them up in the middle of the night. We get there and we're feeling and sensing all of this. We saw shadow figures. She got 3 giant scratches down her back, right in front of her face. That was terrifying, because if something is physically harming you, I mean, like to the point where your back is bleeding and you can't see what that is, that was probably just as terrifying as, getting my hair pulled by a prisoner.
Yeah.
Going to this, Virgil. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, but your grandmother was wrong when they said the dead cannot harm you, because as she said, they can.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mother always said, fear the dead more than the living, because the dead can do whatever they want. And the living, you have limits. But the dead don't. They don't have limits. And they can do whatever they feel like, however they feel like, whenever they want to. And yeah, you can be hurt, you can be harmed, you can get, you can anger them so easily. It's just, yeah. That's why my mother always said, fear the dead.
Yeah, because you got to remember, and being in this field, we talk about demons and that, but it's such a small aspect of this. People don't realize how small the aspects of demons really are. But you also think about people are going to be what they were when they're alive. If you're a nice person in real life, you're going to be a nice person in the afterlife. But if you're a mean person or you're always disgruntled, you're going to be kind of that way and after you pass. But you have to worry about too is lots of times we'll run into trickster spirits or stuff like that that
Yeah.
mimic what you think is there. I mean, there's many times where we're sitting there and we're talking to what we think are kids. And in my investigations, how I do my investigations is, like I said earlier, you do it as if the person's in front of you. If you're in a prison, you're going to be like Zach, where you're going to be kind of forceful. But if you're somewhere and you know that there's kids in that, I'll actually get on the floor, sit down, and talk to them as if they're in front of me. And I've had situations where we're talking, and after a while, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Is this a trickster spirit? You know, you might have a spirit that, like I said, maybe they were tricksters in life and they want to, I don't know how to put it, but they want to be cool or whatever.
Well, sometimes
And
they
might be more aggressive.
you know, spirits come across as children because, you know, somebody might feel mothering or, you know, like just feel more compassion towards something. And then they get in and, you know, get their little grubby meat
And
hooks.
you start hearing voices that are telling you to blank off, like go to blank, 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 and you know, like I don't care about you. You can go blank, blank, blank. Yeah, I've heard a lot. Like I'm just so used to it. I go, yeah, I heard that. That doesn't work on me. So yeah, try something else, right? And you get the incubus, you get the succubus, you get all kinds of stuff like that. You know, I make protection jewelry
Oh, okay.
for when you go on an investigation. My friend went to the cave and this nasty witch saw what she was wearing and ripped it off for her neck. So
Oh,
she had to grab every bead and have it restrung again. But yeah, thank God it only went after her necklace, you know. Thank God it didn't go after her because
yeah.
yeah, that would have been horrific, right? But yeah, I mean, I always make used jade and stuff like that, and obsidian and selenite if I can, and cat's eye and whatever. Um, so because it's really strong, and dark spirits don't like it. But yeah, you know, when I heard that, my friend was in tears when she told me that, and I said, you know, heck, you know, you're lucky you're still alive, and you're lucky you got saved, and you're lucky that only harmed that part of it. But yeah, don't worry about it. You know, it can always be restrung, or you can send it back to me, and I'll restring it for you, and I'll send it back to you. You know, don't worry about it. And yeah, she was in tears, but I said, don't. You know, you're lucky because you're alive. You can talk about it, and nothing happened to you, right? That's what I always say to them, and it made them feel a little bit better because of that. But it's just something that happens, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what's gonna come after you because they don't
Sure.
like something you're wearing. You don't like something you're wearing. They don't like things that say, hey, I don't like that, so I'm gonna pull that off of you, right?
Yeah. And I don't want your listeners to think that all spirits are negative, right? Like
Yeah.
No.
we've encountered one, you know, great, like, you know, I had a boyfriend who passed away from cancer and he showed up at my house 3 times, you know, and I feel like he's my, you know, like one of my spirit guides or, you know, a protector. I always talk to him. So, you know, I just don't want to rethink everything's negative when it comes to the paranormal, you know, and, you know,
you don't know what you come across. You don't know what you come against. Some of them are good. Some of them can be nasty. You just have to differentiate which one is good and which one can be kind of like, sorry, you know, we're gonna walk this way. You can walk that way. We're cool.
Yeah.
And that all comes with experience.
Sure.
The more you do this,
Yep.
the more you understand, and the more that you can tell what kind of spirits you're talking to,
And
and
you
how
just
to
know,
communicate.
you just know by the energy that's in front of you if it's good or bad, or if it's questionable. Like if it's
Yeah. And always
yeah.
trust your instincts and what your body's telling you. You know, we have these in, you know, what do you call it, Joe? Ingrained protections of sensing people's energy or spirits energy. I mean, you know, you walked into a room that somebody just had a fight in and you feel that tension in the air. That's a real thing. You know.
Yeah.
They say like it's a vibration that you just pick up
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah, and everybody has that. We talk about mediumship and stuff like that, and everybody has a mediumship aspect in them. It's
Mm-hmm.
just some people have better training to how to use it in that. But
Mhm.
it even goes back to like the law of attraction. One of my things with my life coaching stuff is the law of attraction and the law of action. And people don't realize that when you put something out into the universe, you're actually putting your thoughts out in the universe, because at a fundamental level, everything is energy and everything is vibration. That's why when we communicate with spirits, we communicate through different means of
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Mhm.
And there's there's things that they put on people's heads to read brain waves that aren't even touching the body. So
Mm-hmm.
that goes to show you that you do radiate energy out of your body, and if you put these thoughts out, and I think that's one of the reasons too why when we talk to spirit, a lots of times we'll be out in a ghost hunt or something, we'll hear voices, we'll
Mhm.
hear the spirits talk to us, not through EVPs, but through audible people. Even
Mhm.
you could be standing next to somebody, they'll hear a voice or they'll hear a response to your question, and the person next to you won't. And we think that that's just because they can basically put out the energy to that specific person or to that specific piece of equipment that we're talking about.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Tell them to know when you're coming too, They said,
Yeah. One
Well, they
time,
know you're coming before you leave is what
Oh
they
yeah.
say, so that's
Mhm.
why.
One time I was in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is famously, haunted
mm-hmm.
because of the Battle of Gettysburg. And it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I'm driving down. The battlefield has one road that goes through it, and it's like 9 miles long, and there's nothing between. There's no houses. It's just battlefield. And I stopped. It was about 11 o'clock at night, so it was dark out. And I got out of the car and I went over to the battlefield, and there's like these wooden what kind of fences? Like split rail fencing to keep you off the battlefield, but it really doesn't. So I get out of the car and I take my camera and I'm taking a picture out into the field because I thought, well, maybe I'll capture something. And a young man spoke out loud in my ear and said, "What are you doing?" And there was nobody there. And I ran back to the car. It scared me. And it was just so interesting. Like I had never, well, I had heard things before, like, your name being called and you're home alone, or things saying get out, but never just had a spirit talk to me right in my ear like that. It was so interesting.
But you notice that when you got out of your car, you just knew you had to take a picture there.
Yeah.
Something inside you told you to take a picture there,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't ignore it. It's just your little voice in your head saying, "Yeah, you got to do this here. You got to take a picture here. You got to take a picture there. I have to do it. I have to do it. If I don't, it's just no. I have to do it." Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and you do it. It's always like listen to the little voice in your head, because the little voice in your head can always save you and help you,
Sure.
and always tell you that's a good place to take a picture. There's something there. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
always listen to the little voice in your head.
Mhm.
It won't turn you wrong, or you won't have anything bad happen to you if you listen to your little voice in your head. It's what I usually tell some people that are under me. They want to know, am I doing this okay? Am I right? Or the question that says, don't ever question yourself. Listen to the little voice in your head. If it tells you to do something, do it,
Yeah.
because it may help you, or
Yeah.
it might save you, or it might show you what they want you to take a look at.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those, you have your inner voice and then you have your
Mhm.
spirit guides,
Yeah.
or, some people call them guardian angels or spirit guides, or, whatever you want to call them, but they are there to guide you and protect you, right? Like
Yeah.
there's been times where have you ever like forgot your phone and you had to go back to the house,
Mhm.
and if you hadn't gone back to the house, there's a terrible accident on the corner and you could have
Mhm.
been involved in that. So, sometimes they protect you
Mhm.
in ways that may annoy you because
Yeah.
like, dang it, I gotta go back and get my phone. But a lot of people don't listen to their intuition or
Yeah.
to their guides. And how many times have you've like, oh shoot, I should have turned left and I turned right, and then
Yeah.
you're like backtracking and you
Yeah.
didn't listen to that inner voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there. Do you believe in attachment monitoring spirits? Sure,
Oh yeah.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely.
There's both good and bad. Like she was
Mhm.
saying, guardian angels, spirit guides, but there's also in a not so friendly. There's also not so friendly spirits watching you too for whatever reason. They report back or just monitoring you for whatever reason. Don't
Mhm.
really know fully why some of them monitor. Sometimes they
Mhm.
monitor you for another something else.
Mhm. Yeah,
Spirits are different on my side and on her side. My side more the unaliving side, and her side is more the painful, the the death side of her side. So it's just totally different from where we live. Like everyone thinks, oh, this is Japan, it's all the same. Like, oh no, it isn't, because the spirits are totally different from her side and from my side.
Mhm.
She'll get more shadow figures, and I'll get more like, you should unalive yourself. And I said, no, I'm not gonna do that, so you can forget about it. That's how I get on my side. And her side is like, yeah, you can see me, but I don't want you to touch me, I don't want you to talk to me. I'm gonna go this way, you're gonna go that way, and that's it.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
that's a difference between where she lives and where I live.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
But that's actually a good thing because you got to have variety, and
We have that here.
you
yeah.
learn more.
And the north and then North Japan has their own weird spirit things. Their own
They
different
got their own
witches, their own
weirdness there too.
this.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of salad do you want? Do you want pickles in your salad? Do you want tomatoes in your salad? Like, you
Mhm.
get your garden variety.
Right. Well, it's interesting too because Japan is so much older.
Hmm.
The lineage goes back thousands of years, whereas America's only I mean, we haven't had natives
Yeah, the
here
Native
for a long,
Americans,
long
but
time, but in general, our country's only about 300 years old.
Mhm.
So you could have very, very um, old spirits, I guess you would
Mhm.
say. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
and it
That's
I mean,
are
even
they
with
still there?
Bigfoot,
Yeah.
they found a lamp, an oil lamp, and I don't remember if it was in the Japan area or Tokyo area. I don't know exactly remember where, but they found a lamp that actually had drawings of Bigfoot on it that was 8,000 years old.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah. Interesting.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I think it's
Bigfoot
more.
here is only 5 foot tall though. He's only been
Yeah.
seen 5 foot tall. He's been seen many
Hmm.
Okay.
times, but
Mhm.
everyone always says he's 5 foot tall and smells like rotten flesh.
Yeah.
Oh.
um,
They're,
Japan has a lot of
they
old
see them all over the
dark
world.
history,
Mhm.
really
Hmm.
dark, really, really, really dark history. And yeah, because of that dark history, there's a lot of hauntings in this country.
Hmm.
Now, is there, just not talking ghosts, but what else is Japan? Do they have elementals? Is there alien activity? What
Yep.
other type of
Definitely
paranormal
alien
things
activity,
happen?
especially during earthquakes. You'll see them more, and it goes with the whole theory of they either live in our. Some people believe some UFOs and aliens either live in our Earth, if you believe in a whole hollow Earth theory, or even
Mhm.
live in the water, which kind of fits Japan's activity
Mhm.
Mhm.
because the bigger the earthquake is here, the more UFO activity you'll see during that time.
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
Especially on my end, where I live, like, it's like every spring we get earthquakes. Okay, I'm so darn used to it. Like, sometimes
Mhm.
I won't even get out of bed. I say, "I'll forget it. I'm not getting out of bed. I'm not gonna hold down my stoop down furniture, and I'm gonna go back to sleep. Stuff it." I throw the covers on my head to protect myself, and I go back to bed again because like 4 o'clock in the morning. You gotta be kidding, right? Like,
Yeah, there's times when
no,
she
not
messaged
doing
me in
that.
the morning, and because in Tokyo, they're in the, fire belt, which is the epicenter of most earthquakes here, so she'll message me in the morning, she's like, "Yeah, there was an earthquake at 4 a.m." But I was just like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go back to bed. It's my time, it's my time.
Right?
I'm going back to sleep."
Yeah.
You're so used yeah,
I'm that
like,
like
used
I'm
to it up
tired.
there.
Okay, I'm tired. I just need my sleep, and I'm gonna go back to bed, and that's it. Like, who cares? And everyone's like that in Tokyo. Like, nobody really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? You know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm just
experienced the same when I lived in California. You would be laying in bed and all of a sudden the beds be shaking and you're like, oh, I'm just too tired. I can't even get up.
yeah.
Until it got to the
Like,
point, if it shakes you out of bed, then that's a problem. But if it's just,
yeah.
you
If it
sit there
shakes
going,
like this, yeah, you're out of bed. But if it does this, like, good
yeah.
night. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm so darn used to it. I used to be so freaked out about it, and I said, nah. When the Fukushima earthquake happened, yeah, that freaked me out because where I lived, the whole place was like you could see the earth underneath. Oh, okay, that's how they build a building. Oh, okay, like, okay, no problem. But yeah, you sit there, and after earthquake, it's always freezing cold. So he said, no heat, no electricity. Okay, so what the heck are we gonna eat, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
You're doing this. Yeah, we got water, we got the whatever. Yeah, okay, no problem. You like, we're gonna eat bananas and have water to drink. Like, and everyone's so nonchalant. But oh well, so what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see, and the other people say, "Are you sure you're okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. Why? Like, well, you should be scared. So, nah.
No, they're so used to it up there in
Yeah.
Tokyo, it's not
Yeah,
it's
Mhm.
because
just,
we even did a
another thing.
podcast. Remember, we had a podcast. We were doing a podcast. Remember, Amanda? And
There's
then
been
I
a
said,
couple podcasts where she's like, "Yeah, I'm in the middle of an earthquake," and I'm like, "Do I need to let you go already?" "Nah."
Oh.
and I was holding up my china cabinet. I said, "Yeah, okay." This you can see the camera's going to like this. Yeah, I'm just holding up my china cabinet. Okay, we're good. Okay, let's carry on. She goes, "You sure you're gonna carry on?" I go, "Mm-hmm, we're fine."
Hey, there's no what do you call it?
The show
Take
must go on.
the show must go on when
Mhm.
you're
Yeah,
podcaster.
yeah, yeah,
We've
yeah,
had our equipment fail. We've had,
yeah,
EVPs happen during our show.
yeah.
We've captured a woman's voice screaming during one
Mhm.
of our EVP or our podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Ave Maria just starts playing out of
yeah.
nowhere. We're like, where's
Where
this coming from?
Yeah,
the ghosts are
yeah.
I mean,
curious
you
about the podcast.
do it for 9 years, you're going to have stuff happen to you.
Right.
Oh well,
Comes with the
well,
territory.
we're so darn used to it. Nothing bothers us anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
For
you ever
sure.
have a time when you were like when you were on a podcast, when you were on location, that something happened that you couldn't get back in?
Well,
Like,
we've had a lot of times where we'll be interviewing someone, and Bill Konkoleski is a
Mhm.
good example. He is the head of MUFON
mm,
here in Michigan.
Which is the Mutual UFO network.
Hmm.
yeah,
And it seems like every time we interview him, something happens. The
mm,
recorder will stop or something,
mm-hmm,
and it's got to the point where, like, Bill, we're not interviewing you, Bill. You mess up with that equipment too much.
But a lot of times when we do shows about aliens and
mm-hmm,
things of that nature,
mm-hmm,
we have disruption. So it's like, is something listening to us? Is it the government?
mm-hmm,
Like, when
mm-hmm,
you're talking about, is it the aliens or is it just
mm-hmm.
maybe just coincidence? We
Hmm.
don't
Yeah,
know, you know?
when we talk about spirits, Amanda and I, when we get right deep into it, we talk about certain spirits that we shouldn't be talking about, or some places that we shouldn't be talking about. I always get kicked out.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, I always get kicked out. Like, I'm like, okay, you can't hear my voice, you can't see me anymore, so I have to come back in again. sometimes I couldn't even come back. And one time I couldn't even come back, and I said, "Okay, I'm done." I messaged her. I said, "I can't get back in. I'm done. We're good. Bye." And I
Yeah,
met her
we
at the end of the show. Yeah. It happens to me every time we talk about spirits, especially certain videos that you shouldn't be watching, or certain videos that's on YouTube that shouldn't be there. Oh, I shouldn't be saying this. Okay, if I say this, I might get kicked out. Oh shit. Okay, yeah. Anyways, blah 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 bleep bleep bleep. Yeah,
yeah.
something happens to me, and yeah, medicine. And everyone say, "What happened to your goals?" Oh, don't worry about it. She'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Strange
just
things happen.
it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Makes it interesting. There's never a dull moment in podcasting. That's for
No,
sure.
no, 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 no.
We're always so used to it. One time I was in the middle of a story, Irene got kicked, and the guest was like, "Oh," and I kept going on the story, and they're like, "Wait, you're not concerned with about Irene? You're not going to check on her? No, she'll be right back on." And
Yeah.
like just then, like on cue, she pops back up. I'm like, "See,
Yep.
we're used to it. She's fine."
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. And like our show is audio.
Mhm.
We do an audio show. We don't do a video show.
Mm-hmm,
And but we do our interviews through StreamYard, like we're doing this. And
mm-hmm,
we've told the guest, if you're talking and you see your screen just blank out,
mm-hmm.
as long as we can still hear you, just keep at it. Just like
Mhm.
you, nothing happened.
Yeah.
For
Or
sure.
I'd go to an area outside my front door, down the street, where there was a person who was killed, and he came back and he started creating car accidents, right? And I
Mm.
was on a podcast. I was talking about it, and they said, "We can't hear you." So I had to come back again and again because it was messing with my audio.
Mhm.
And I'm so used.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we'll do this. Like it's just yeah, it's just something here. They'll mess with whatever you want. They'll mess with all kinds of stuff like that here. And I'm
Yeah.
just yeah, so used to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were doing a show about the Greenbrier ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And the Greenbrier ghost is one of the only ghosts in history that actually solved her own case in a court
Mm-hmm.
of law. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
why she did that is she would give her dreams about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there recording that, and we're doing our closer, and all of a sudden we hear this woman screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it came over my track because, when we record, we've
Mm-hmm.
got 3 tracks. We got my track, Jen's track, and the music. And then it just played over my track, and we're like, "What the heck was that?"
It was the craziest
Mm-hmm.
thing. It
Yeah.
was incredible. It was
Yeah.
like she was telling us, "Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing my story and getting my story
Mm.
out."
Yeah.
Or she was reliving, what had
Yeah,
happened to her.
it's possible. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It that's what I like about paranormal. Okay, you can help the dead
Mhm.
find closure.
Mhm.
You can help them so that they can move on.
Yeah.
um Sometimes you can show the bad part of it, right? Like what happened
Mhm.
to them. It's not always nice, it's not always pleasant, it's not always something that you want to hear, but it happens. And they need a voice sometimes, and they need you to talk to tell their story and how they can move on. So yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
like about paranormal.
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 telling, like, the dead really need, they really need a voice, and you're their voice.
Mhm.
You're helping them so they can
Yep.
find closure. And that's what I like about it. It's
Mhm.
not only that scary part of it, but it's mostly helping them find closure so they can move on.
Yeah. And that's great, And
Yeah,
Joe and I, we love that part of it, but we also like to preserve the history. So,
yeah.
like we like to tell the backstory of, maybe why that person, um,
Hmm.
still sticks around in, their mansion or their graveyard or wherever it's at.
Mm.
Um, so, a lot of history gets lost. So, doing the
Oh
podcast,
yeah. Oh
all of
yeah.
us are historians
Mhm.
sometimes, you know.
Sometimes the historians get it wrong, right? So you have to make it right. for
Mhm.
them
Yeah.
because the dead always knows. Like they say, we're telling this story. I said, yeah, that's not right. Because she's right here. She's telling me what happened to her. And they said, oh yeah, that's a lot of money. I said, no, it
Mhm.
isn't.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think history sometimes has to be rewritten in a certain way so we can tell the right story, not the wrong one, or not the one that we think, right?
Mhm.
So I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't always tell the popular story. Sometimes you have
Yeah.
to tell the truth, and there it may be that legend's been embellished for 20, 30 years or longer.
Yeah.
It could be 100 years, and then as you dig in and find, you can kind of separate out the truth from the legend, and
Mhm.
let the listener decide for themselves
Hmm.
Yeah.
what they want to believe, or what they want to follow, or what resonates with
Hmm.
them.
It opens up
Exactly.
great discussion.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Anyways.
much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Irene, Amanda, you guys are wonderful. I really appreciate you guys,
Well,
putting yourself out there, podcasting in a country that's not very open to the paranormal, but it's great. You guys are
Yeah,
pioneering.
hey, we're
that's the
here.
reason why we
We
do the
don't mind talking
podcast.
about it.
We're hoping
Nobody else will
eventually.
talk about it here, but we're not afraid to talk about it. That's why we're the only ones that are here talking about it because nobody else will do it.
Awesome.
We're
Yeah.
And
hoping people who are afraid to admit that they're into the paranormal for whatever reason, it doesn't even have to be here in Japan, could be
Mhm.
home for whatever reason. We're hoping that they find us and know this is your safe space because we
mhm,
understand sometimes you
mhm.
can't always come out and say you believe in the paranormal or you into the paranormal.
Hmm.
It's
Or
just
you're
like that here.
experiencing something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm glad you're getting the word out.
Yeah. And your
But thank
listeners can find us anywhere you get podcasts from. Our podcast is the 222 Paranormal Podcast. Like I said, we got 400 and some shows that they can binge.
Wow.
And thank you so much for having us
Yeah,
on.
we really appreciate you
One
guys
thing though,
having us
keep an
on.
eye out.
Thank you very
Jen's
much
got
for
a book
coming
out.
on.
Jen has a new book out all about
Yeah.
legends and that.
Yep, I have a
you.
collection of ghost stories from all the counties in Ohio. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
out in a couple weeks. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
There's lots of good
Okay.
headless horseman stories from Ohio.
Nothing like a good headless horseman story, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
one headless horsewoman story.
Oh, that sounds even more
Yeah.
interesting.
But yeah,
we'll have to
thank you
have you
so
on
much.
sometime for part 2.
Yeah,
once she
definitely.
gets the
We
book
love
out.
that. That would
Mhm.
be great. You guys are doing great. Really
Well,
enjoy
thank
your
you.
show.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining us. And
All
everyone
right.
else, thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye, nice.